friends, it's me, the Ebony Otaku, the well-rounded nerd. Today is the day. I'm so excited. Fruits Basket 2021 Season 3, the final. I binge watched it yesterday because I had just a day at home and I decided, you know what, I'm going to watch all the episodes today. It's only 13, so what was that, 5.5 hours of my life? Totally worth it. Fruits Basket is one of those series that stirs up a lot of nostalgia for me because right after my Sailor Moon phase when I was younger, you know, you go looking for other anime and whatnot, other manga, and one of the recommendations, if you like Sailor Moon, you'll probably like Fruits Basket. And I did. And the original anime, it was one of the earlier ones I had, so that was back when, you know, before the streaming. If you wanted anime, you had to BitTorrent. My torrenting days are long over. Homegirl pays for her streaming now. Let artists live. But I was so excited when this series got revived because they never finished the original anime. And that was one I probably watched all the episodes. I've watched the whole series at least 20 times. At least. Because it's just such a good story. It's very heartwarming. The characters just pull you in. Is the original anime different from the manga? Absolutely, but they're two different medium. So when the medium changes, the story has to change to match the medium that it's in. Just like when you take something that's in a book or animated and try to translate that into live action with human actors. It's gonna be different, but I'm okay. I will consume my stories in every way they give them to me. So I'm just gonna tell you, spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. Stop now if you don't want spoilers because you haven't seen it, because I cannot talk about the awesomeness that was the end of the series without going into spoiler territory, because I'm just going to talk all about it today. And last piece of business, just remember, the contest is still going, and it'll go until it goes. I don't know if it will take me a month or a year to get to 500 subscribers across all platforms. You see people out there who have millions of subscribers, and you're like, wow, but they started 10 years ago. I'm starting now. You got to start somewhere. Everyone starts with 1 subscriber. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo. I'm a 5th degree black belt, actually. And we always tell our white belts, every black belt started with a white belt. There has to be a beginning. So this is my beginning. But please like, comment, subscribe. And when I get to that 500 across all platforms, I will then be picking a winner from each platform. All you have to do is subscribe to receive a fabulous nerdy prize. Like, I got good stuff here. I got good stuff. Look at this. Funko Pop Saitama. I mean, come on. I don't know if I'm giving him away. I like him a lot. And have a U.S. address, please, because international shipping, not a thing. So, in BTW, my dog is like right here chewing on a bully stick. So, if you hear extra noises, it's the dog chewing on a bully stick. So, let's get into it. So, Season 3 picks up right where Season 2 left off. The big reveal, unless you read the manga, the big reveal, Akito is a girl, which explains a lot of the craziness that has gone on. Akito has presented as a male because Akito's mother is introduced. There she is. Is that her? Yeah, that was her. Yeah, Akito's mother, who was a whole new piece of work, is introduced in this series. And she wanted her daughter raised as a boy. And I can just best describe it as just parental jealousy. So let me back up. I'm getting way ahead of myself. They should have called Fruits Basket 10 Ways to Screw Up Your Kids. Okay? Because it literally is a show about watching what happens when adults are reckless with the little lives that they are given. It's also a direct denouncement of tradition for the sake of tradition. So a little bit of history, if you're not familiar with Fruits Basket, it's based around the Zodiac. I believe the Chinese Zodiac, not the Japanese Zodiac, they're different. But we all know that those are animals that are representative of traits that people have. If your birthday falls in a certain set of weeks or months, then you're this particular type of creature, blah, 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 blah. Well, the story goes that God, Kami-sama, once held a banquet for all of the animals. And on this banquet day, he invited, you know, the rat, the bull, the ox, the tiger, and the rest of them, and the cat even. And, well, the rat, being the smartest and cleverest of all the creatures, lied to the cat and told the cat is the next day. So cat sleeps through the banquet. The other animals come and they celebrate the new year with God, and they're blessed for all eternity. The cat is in the Zodiac, but not really. And the cat is cursed, basically. And that's the story you get up front. Well, the spirits of those Zodiac animals are possessors in a particular family line, the Somas, and we met them through the first and second series. In the Soma family, there is a family head, which is through birth lineage, and Akito is the current family head because she is the daughter of the previous family head. Now, that family head is not actually a member of the Zodiac or the Jiunichi or Jiunichi, depends on what pronunciation you're going with. The Jiunichi members look to that family head, Akito in this case, as that representation of God. And because of that promise that was made so many hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago, there are literally spiritual threads that tie them together. So all of those reincarnated Jiunichi spirits are tied to whoever is present at the time representing God to them. And it's a bond that's not supposed to be broken. And we learn more about Akito's backstory. I haven't even talked about Honda yet. We learn more about Akito's backstory because we see Akito's mom, Rin. She's a whole piece of work. So apparently what had happened was, stay with me, friends. What had happened is that Rin was a servant in the Soma household, and she was a servant to the previous family head, who was, by right, seemed to be an okay dude. Like, not terrible, not screaming and throwing things like Akito. And she, I can't tell if she really loved him or if she just wanted position. It seems like she really loved him. But anyway, she got him to love her. And this servant now becomes first lady of the household because he falls in love with her. Doesn't say they got married. Just says they fell in love. And they have a baby. And that baby is going to be the next family head. And Rin, Akito's mother, decides, I'm raising you as a boy. And I think the reason is because Rin was so obsessed with Akira, Akito's father. She was so obsessed with Akira that she wanted no other female competition, including her daughter. How messed up is that? I mean, oh, it's just all kinds of crazy. But that's where we are. She raises Akito as a boy. Akito should have been Akiko. That's what it boils down to. And she treats her very cruelly. She actually doesn't even want to hold her own daughter. She rejects the concept of giving her a mother's love. But the opposite of that is Akira. Akira loves his daughter. He believes that he is blessed that this beautiful little creature was given to him and Rin to raise. And because they're special, that makes their daughter special, because their daughter is the new god in the Zodiac. And because they were blessed to be the ones to give birth to this child, it makes them special. And he explains to her as she's growing up that there are going to be these Zodiac members born into the family. And they're going to want to love you. They're going to love you above anyone. You're special. You were born to be loved. But to be told your whole life that you're born to be loved and have your mother reject you, that's gonna mess a person up. So pause there with Akito and all of Akito's problems. What about the rest of them? I'm glad you asked. So let's jump back over into Honda-san and the Soma household with Shigure and the boys, Kyo, and there are so many names, y'all, and Yuki, Kyo and Yuki. So a bomb is dropped on Honda, or Toru. I'll call her by her first name, Toru. A bomb is dropped on Toru. One of the Zodiac members catches her off on her own, and it happens to be the one that went out on a date with one of her best friends, Uotani. And his name is Kureno. Are you following this? You following all these names? If you watched it, you are. If you haven't, I'm sorry. But Kureno was a member of the Zodiac. I say was because his curse and tie to Akito has been broken. Because of that, Akito keeps Kureno closer than anyone because she doesn't want, and everyone thinks she's a he, remember that? That's important. She doesn't want anyone to know that one of those special bonds no longer exists. Because those people, those 12 Zodiac members, were created to love her. And one of her special spiritual bonds is gone, which tells her, Akito, what if the rest of them go? And she fears that if that information was to get out, they would figure out how to break their bond to her, because she hasn't been cool to them. She's been terrible to them. She locked Yuki up as a kid and tortured him. She pushed Rin out of a window because she was in love with another one of them. And Akito hates the girls. We know why now. She be a girl and she be a jealous one. Pushed one of them out the window in an intent to kill him. She's not nice. She's just not nice. She'll lock you in a room and leave you with no food or water. She's not cool. But the love she didn't get from her mom, that pent up hatred she's passing on to others. It's a vicious cycle. So backing up to where I was. So Kureno meets with Toru. Toru in the previous series had given him a burned disc that had some memories with Uotani on it. You know, Uo-chan and Kureno met by accident when Kureno had like his one free day a year outside of the compound, and she fell in love with him. I mean, fast 17-year-old love, but still love in its own way. And they can't ever see each other again because he's a Soma and he's the closest of the Zodiac to Akito at the time. And Kureno explains to Toru that Akito's a girl, she a messed up girl, and that he's no longer a member of the Zodiac. And that's all a secret. And that there are other members of the Zodiac who would want their curse broken, they just don't know how. He also tells her, even if he wanted to be with Uotani, he can't because this other girl needs him more. Think about that. These people have a soul bond, basically. And there's a lot of euphemisms out there for what soul bonding is. Some people say it's through, conjugation. Others say it's through, the raising and rearing of your family. But they were basically born tied together. When Rin was pregnant with Akito, the day she woke up, she didn't know she was pregnant with Akito. But the 4 older Jionichi boys, they did know. And when they were all asleep the night before, they all had the same dream that Kami-sama, God, was calling to them. And they all woke up in tears. And those 4 older boys, Shigure, who was it? It was Shigure, Hattori, Kureno, and the white-haired one, the snake, whose name I can't remember, Yuki's brother. I'll remember it later. But they all wake up crying and rush to Rin, and they're touching her stomach and saying, "We've been waiting for you." And it freaks Rin out because nobody cares about the mom. All they care about is the baby in her belly. Y'all, layers to this story. And Kureno tells that story to Toru. And Toru now really begins her true character arc, because she's really been presented as this character that's just too good to be true. Like, nobody is this kind. I mean, this girl has lost her home. She's lost both of her parents. There's my dog. You see him? He's looking for more treats. I just gave him a treat. Now he's looking for more. She's lost her parents. You know, she wasn't exactly the most loved at school. Her two friends had to defend her all the time. You know, she's basically living off of the kindness of strangers, but she's always smiling, always kind, always doing for others. She always puts other people first, and it just seems unnatural how good and sweet she was. Well, I mean, turns out she's a human too, and her character arc over this third season is really interesting because she's still good and caring, but she learns that she doesn't have to shoulder the weight of the world on her own. And she does that through wanting to break the curse of all the Zodiac members because she's in love with one of them. She's in love with Kyo. Not the fake love, but they've really done a good job over the series showing you the progression of these two kids falling in love with each other. And that's another thing I love about what they've done with this third season. They grew the characters up. Every character didn't just have a personality arc or that moment where it's like, oh, aha, I'm an adult now. They actually made them more adult. And that's one thing I appreciate here, because a lot of shows stagnate, and whatever age the character is when it started, that's how old they are when it finishes, and they look exactly the same. Bart Simpson, running nerd joke. But they didn't do that here. They grew them up. Even Momiji, the smallest and cutest of the Zodiac members, he a whole man now. he grown, and he basically tells Kyo, he's like, you know what? I love Toru too, and I was a little cute and funny before, but now I'm a man, and you better get it together. I'm gonna take her from you. Momiji, didn't see that coming. I digress. So we are now following Toru, not getting to know this family, but wanting to understand how can this curse be broken. And that's the true opposition here. Akito is desperately wanting to hold on to the world that was created for her. In her mind, this world of the Soma family and all of the Zodiac members, it's for her. This is my world. I've never been outside of this world. These people were literally created for me. You can't take that from me. And then Honda comes along, Toru comes along, and they all are gravitating towards her naturally. And she's not making them do it. She's just kind, sweet, fun, adorable, great to be around, good personality. She's just a nice girl. And she's nice to all of them for who they are and not for what she can get from them. Yeah, they're letting her live for free, but she pulls her weight. Homegirl cooks and does all the chores. If you're going to live for free, that's what you should do, you know? So she's she is the foil to Akito, and Akito is the foil to Toru. They are both kami-sama attracting the Jiunichi members to them. Only Akito gets them by force and tradition. Toru is attracting them through love and friendship. And Akito doesn't understand that because the tradition of Jiunichi and Kami-sama is you love me because you have to. It's not a want to. It's not an option. You were created for me, so you have to love me. Don't take that from me. Akito's world is falling apart, and we learn even more about other characters that we've been following in the story, that they have loves. You know, Ayame, remembered his name. Ayame, Yuki's brother, is in love with the girl that runs his shop with him. But he has set up this whole persona of being a champion of men's love, as he loves to call it, with his fancy dress shop, when really he loves the girl he's running the shop with, but he's not allowed to love her because he's a male Jiunichi member, and Akito will lose her mind if he dares love anyone but her. Hattori, the family doctor, also was in love, was engaged, and Akito wouldn't have it. Made them break up, made the girl's memories be wiped. She goes off to marry someone else, and Hattori wants to love another girl, but he's scared to because he knows Akito will lose her mind. And then Shigure, biggest shock of all, Shigure is in love with Akito, and Akito is in love with Shigure. And a big source of the angst everyone is experiencing is because these two star-crossed lovers can't get it together. Okay, look, I told you spoiler warning. This is trigger warning territory now. Just because it's animated does not mean it's for children. This is basically a really deep drama that was animated. That's it. This story talks about stuff you don't want your kids to know about, okay? This is just me to you. Sorry, children. I am betraying the trust, okay? This is not a kid's show. Maybe the first season? This ain't a kid's show. Some of the subject matter they touch on is really deep. So, warning out the way, I gave you plenty of time to click off. Shigure and Akito begin to love each other at a young age. Remember, the 4 oldest boys in the Junichi are the ones who knew Rin was pregnant. And they're the only ones who know she's a girl, because they were there when she was born. The rest of the Zodiac members were born after Akito. They're younger than her, so they have no idea she's a girl. They think it is a boy causing all this trouble. But these 4 grown men know that this grown woman who is in love with one of them, that's the source of all their angst. Shigure and Akito have been in love for years. For years. He actually made a promise to her that he would always love her above anyone else. And Akito thought he made that promise because she's Kami-sama. He made that promise because he genuinely loved her. But as they got older, you know, the crazed version of love that resides in Akito started to explode in different ways. And she would choose favorites among the male Junichi members to be her current favorite. Interpret that how you want to. And Shigure got jealous, like super jealous. And Shigure, oh, he did the thing with Rin, with Akito's mom. He did the thing. Yeah. So, but he said he did it because she chose Kureno as her favorite and was doing the thing with him. These two are crazy. Okay, they love each other, yet refuse to admit they want to be together, then go out and cheat on one another, and then get mad and make everybody else's life miserable. Human's gonna human, no matter what. Well, let's leave them alone for a second and look at what's happening with the other members. Remember Rin? Not Rin. She's the one who is the spirit of the horse. She's the long black hair, really pretty. Acts like she hates Toru, but she really doesn't. She loves her. She's the one that Akito pushed out of a window when she found out she was, you know, in love with one of the male Zodiac members. And the reason they all fall in love together, though they got the same last name, that's a whole other conversation for another day. They remember they're opposite genders, so they can't embrace any one of the opposite gender. So unless they're a Junichi member, that's the only time the curse isn't active. So they're kind of forced to fall in love with each other because they don't have a lot of options. You know, if you hug your spouse and they turn into a snake, that's a little weird. You know, it's going to freak most people out. But Rin she's desperate to break the curse, and she believes there's a way to break it. And she gets in cahoots with Akito's mom by accident, because Akito's mom tells her that she can help her break the curse if she'll just retrieve an item for her out of Akito's room. And the item turns out to be a whole MacGuffin. It's this box that Akito was given as a child after her dad died by a maid, and the maid told her dad's soul was in it. And then, you know, at some point the girl opened the box and of course it's empty. I thought it was his ashes because they didn't say it first. They didn't tell us that till the end of the series. I thought it was her dad's ashes. And apparently not. It was an empty box. But Rin thinks there's something of value in there as far as Akira is concerned. So she sends Rin in to steal it. And of course she gets caught. And Akito had already tried to kill Rin before. She decides to kill her again, but slow and painful. Locks her in the cat house, which is where they lock up the spirit of the cat once he reaches maturity, or she, because the cat is evil. And locks her up in there, stops feeding her, cuts all of her long, beautiful hair off, and leaves her to die. Time out. This show is a commentary of what happens when you screw up your kids. Because hurt people hurt people. And people who are screwed up and hurt as children will carry that forward and hurt the next generation. Because that's something else we get out of this series. We get the backstories with the parents of all of these Zodiac kids, how they treated them growing up. We find out that Kyo, the redhead cat boy, we find out that Kyo, the most cursed member of the Junichi, the one who's called the most monstrous, who's going to be locked away forever when he becomes an adult, that his father told him he was responsible for his mother's death. And she died by her own hand in a very gruesome way by throwing herself in front of a chain in front of her kid, BTW. But he has told his son his whole life, you're the reason your mother died. It was you. But he actually has memories of his father saying to his mother, you birthed a monster. You're responsible for giving birth to this abomination. The father verbally abused Kyo's mother for giving birth to Kyo, when he's the Soma who had the bloodline. You know, that's right up with you know, cultures that are like, you gotta have a boy. And we know that it's, you know, the swimmers that determine the gender of the child. It's just like you got her pregnant and you know what family you're in. So anyway, I digress again. A lot of rabbit holes with this show. A lot happened in these 13 episodes. But Kyo's messed up because of that. And we also find out that Kyo, when he was a little boy, knew Kyoko, Toru's mom. Same free-spirited redhead. He was a little boy running away from the Soma estate, trying his best not to be near Yuki the rat or the rest of the family that treats him poorly, like he's an idiot, who's telling him that he's responsible for his mom's death. And she's like a big sister to him, and just loves on this cute little kid whose name she doesn't even know. And Kyoko is a bright spot in Kyo's life, and they even have similar names. How sweet is that? The tears of it all. Yeah, I did cry a couple of times. I did cry a couple of times. So he has this whole history, and Kyoko actually shows him a picture of her daughter, and he wants to meet her. He wants to meet Toru. He even peeks in on her one night while Kyoko's at work, and she's at home by herself, probably 7 or 8 years old, eating her little meal on her own. And he's like, I want to be her friend. It's like they were destined to be together. Anywho, but then Kyo was also there for Kyoko's death. He got upset with Kyoko because one night Toru went missing and he wanted to help find her. He spent the whole night running all over the neighborhood trying to find her. And it turned out that Yuki helped her get home. And it blew Kyo's mind. I mean, of course, Kyoko's just happy her daughter's back, but this little boy had nothing in his life where he could say, I did that, I helped. And he tried his hardest to help. He tried his hardest to save Toru, and he didn't even know the little girl. And Yuki the rat stole that from him. And he runs away from Kyoko to never see her again until the day of her death. They both happened to be crossing the street at the time, and an out-of-control car hits Kyoko, and that's how she died. And Kyoko actually sees Kyo and recognizes him as she's dying. And the last words she says to him are, I'll never forgive you. Yuresenai. And he's thinking, oh my God, I didn't save her. I had a chance to save her, but I didn't. I didn't pull her back to me because I'm a Junichi member and everyone will watch me turn into a cat and I can't let that happen. And he did all that processing in half a second. And she dies. But that's not what she meant. In her head, she was thinking about her daughter she was leaving behind, that her husband had already died, that Honda was going to be on her own now. And she was looking at Kyo, the boy she had trusted all those years ago. And in her mind, she was thinking, protect my daughter. Look after her. She's going to be alone. She needs someone. And if you don't look after her, I won't forgive you. Layers. You know, we find out that Yuki's parents were so excited to have the rat baby. That sounds terrible. Because the rat is the luckiest child, the most favored. They literally gave birth to him, and when they found out he was the rat, handed him over to Akito and didn't care that Akito was abusive, was torturing him. They didn't care. They didn't care. And his older brother, Ayame, he didn't care either at the time. They were just like, no, you are now Akito's plaything so that we can have a better life. These parents sacrifice their kids for their own comfort. There's only a couple of the Junichi members who have parents that care about them. And you know who they are because they react completely differently to Akito than others. Rin had terrible parents. She doesn't know how to handle emotion, and she's had other terrible things happen to her. And she's never going to let that stuff go. It's going to eat her alive till the day she dies, whether she's allowed to love or not. You know, Momiji has a father who loves him, but his mother rejected him because when she hugged her son, he turned into a little creature. And she's like, whoop, go. No, can't do it. Has had her memory erased of even knowing him. But Momiji knows who his mother is. Momiji knows who his little sister is. And he can't get near them as his mom and sister and has to carry that pain for his whole life. These kids have been through. They have been through. And then along comes Toru to say, who you are is wonderful. I want to know more about you. Be my friend. I'll be your friend. When no one else cares about you, I'll care about you. She's just a little darling. What can I say? And the Junichi members, who are mostly starved for love and affection, flock to her. And Akito can't handle it. She cannot handle it. We learn an interesting fact. As Kureno's thread to Akito broke, Shigure is sensing the end is coming. Because apparently, in however many hundreds of years, this is the first time all of the Zodiac members have been alive at the same time as Kami-sama since the first banquet. And then we hear a telling of what that first banquet was really like. Originally, Kami-sama, or God, wasn't a god per se. It was a very wise, very talented person who lived alone on top of a mountain and looked out over humanity, wanting a friend. But because he was so wise, so great, and so different than regular people, he was apart from them, and they wanted nothing to do with him. But Kami-sama wanted friends. Well, one day, a cat makes their way into his house and says, I want to be your friend. Can I stay by your side? And Kami-sama and the cat form a beautiful friendship. Well, that gets him to thinking, if this cat will be my friend, maybe there are other creatures out there willing to be my friend. This is so sad. So he writes invitations, lots of invitations, and sends them out into the breeze. And guess who answers? The 12 members of the Zodiac. The rat, the rooster, the snake, the cat, the tiger, the lamb, the ox, the pig. I know I'm forgetting one. The rabbit, the horse, the dragon. They answer. And they have their first Junichi banquet together. And every day and every night, they feast and they drink together. And they're friends. And Kami-sama doesn't want it to end. Well, the cat was there first, and the cat is mortal. Eventually, the cat's life begins to drain. Kami-sama doesn't want that. He wants his first friend to live. So he gets together ingredients and takes a sake cup and blesses it, puts a spell on it for immortality, to be reborn over and over again. And he has the cat drink from it. And now the cat is functionally immortal. When the cat dies, his spirit will go to another, and on and on and on. And then, in turn, all of the other animals drink from the sake cup too, along with Kami-sama, so that they can all keep being reborn together. But the wise cat says, why did you make me drink that? I don't want eternity. I don't want to live forever. We have to be thankful for the moments we have now because they're fleeting. Be thankful for the friendships you have today because they aren't going to last. And the rest of the Zodiac, instead of hearing the cat's wisdom, sees it as a betrayal. And in his dying moments, all of his friends turn their back on him. And that's why the cat is really outcast from the Jiunichi. Dude. When we got to that episode, I was like, oh my God, that's deep. And eventually, one by one, the animals die. The house falls into disrepair on top of the mountain. And this god, who obviously isn't one, if they can die, this god dies. But their spirits go on to reborn over and over, but never all at the same time. And eventually, over time, the reason they were all drawn together is forgotten. And it becomes a legend. And legend becomes myth. Okay, we're not going to get all Lord of the Rings with it. And, you know, everything that once was passes into shadow. Sometimes traditions, when they're so ingrained in our culture, we forget why the tradition exists. And then the tradition has no meaning. It just is. We have to know why the tradition exists for it to have meaning. That's my puppy. None of them know why they're drawn to Akito. They don't know what created that thread. They just know that it is. And they accept it. That is the folly of tradition without purpose. Tradition without understanding. We have to know why we're doing things. Because if we're just doing it to go through the motions, it's meaningless. And the Jiunichi has become meaningless. And one by one, as the different Zodiac members literally grow up and come into themselves, realize their worth, that they matter, Honda has opened their eyes to the beauty that is them as an individual, one by one they break. All of those threads begin breaking, and Akito can feel it every time she loses one of them, and she's growing more and more irate. But on the other hand, the Jiunichi members can feel it as well. And when their thread is cut, they cry. The Stockholm syndrome of it all. When people grow up in circumstances of being treated badly, if that's all they know, even when their perpetrator is taken away, there's still a sense of loss. And it's hard for people to understand, like, why would you want to go back to him? He was beating your tail all over the place. Look, if the person was in love with the person and they had 20 years of wedded catastrophe, that still doesn't mean that love wasn't real. And even though Akito was cruel to all of the Jiunichi members in many different ways, they still loved her. Or him, for those who didn't know he was a her. They still loved him. They had a bond that was very special, and now it's been cut. And now they're literally on their own, spiritually, physically, in the world. And they have to refigure out the purpose in their life. Because before, their only purpose was to exist in the family and serve Akito. And whatever was chosen by the family for them to do, that's what they were going to do. But now there are choices. Well, things come to a head, y'all. They come to a head. And I will say this, the end of season 3 goes full Return of the King at the end. Like, I was watching it and I didn't know what episode I was on because, you know, you lay around in the house watching TV and you're binging. And you don't know, how many episodes it is, but you stop counting at a certain point. And like, once we got to, I think like the 10th episode, I was like, this is feeling real Return of the King with these endings. Because, yeah, but they went full Return of the King with the endings, but I don't care. They closed out everyone's story, except Ren's, which I appreciate. Akito loses all of her mind as these threads are being cut, and Kureno is trying to calm her down. Trying to, but she's just seen Haru leave her, because Haru finds out that it was Akito who pushed Rin out the window, the woman he loves. And he's like, oh, this is who you are? Bye. Can't say that word. Says holler to her and runs on off. And his thread breaks. Shigure won't give Akito the satisfaction of an apology for doing the thing with her mom. Threads are breaking. She can feel thread after thread after thread breaking from her Junichi members, that it's all coming to an end, and it's Toru's fault. And then she finds out that the one she's keeping closest to her, even though she doesn't really love him, it's kind of a twisted thing, Kureno had the nerve to like somebody else. Uotani? Oh, that simply cannot be. And she stabs him in the back. I mean, granted, her own mother used that same knife to try to kill her moments earlier. Ren's a whole thing. It's hard to explain Ren because, you only find out about her in this season. She wasn't in the previous seasons. If I had a gripe with the 3rd season, and I don't really, is Ren. Because she shows up, she acts weird and does terrible things, and then she's gone. We don't get enough about her to have made it worth it being in her story beyond flashbacks. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, but that's my only gripe, and it's a very small gripe. But getting back to it, Akito stabs Kureno, leaves him for dead, and then is just blinded by rage, and runs off to kill Toru, who lives at Shigure's house. Oh my goodness, the layers of it all. Well, at the same time, Kyo and Toru finally have a little bit of a moment together. In the rain, of course, because you only cry in the rain so no one can hear you see your tears. He knows Toru loves him, and she hopes he loves her. And he flat out tells her, you're an idiot for loving me. God, boys are dumb! God. And it breaks her heart, breaks it in two. And he runs off. And Yuki hears him say that to her, and he runs off after him. He's like, Honda, get back in the house. I'm going after the cat. Well, they run off, and at that same time, Akito comes from the back with full intention of stabbing Toru to death. I told you this is not a kid's show. Like, not at all. Just because it's pretty colors doesn't mean it's for the children. Finally, Akito and Toru have a confrontation. And Toru wants to extend love and friendship to Akito. And Akito sees Toru as the one who is destroying her world. And she gets a cut in on her. She tries, when Honda reaches out to give her a hug, I keep switching between Honda and Toru, don't I? Same person. When she reaches out to embrace her with love, she tries to stab her, but she only gets a cut on the arm. And then this whole chase scene ensues. They go out in the woods. They're standing on a cliff. You know what's going to happen. You can't be backed up to a cliff. I guess that was going to happen. They ran off in the woods. I said, somebody's falling off a cliff. Because it's anime. But again, Akito is expressing to Honda out in the woods as they're arguing, you're taking everything from me. I don't know how to live in this world any other way than what I was raised to be. I'm special. And Toru says, yeah, you are special. And I want to get to know you. We met the wrong way. Hi, I'm Honda-san, and I'd like to be your friend. And finally, she breaks through Akito's icy exterior, and Akito realizes that this girl is the true Kami-sama of the Junichi. And she reaches out to take that hand from Toru, and at that very moment, the cliff falls and Honda hits the ground. Of course. Now, fast forward, you know she's going to live. It's her show. She lives. And while in the hospital, Akito actually comes to visit her and talk to her. And they strike up a real friendship. Toru extends her arms of greeting. But you know who hadn't spoken? You know, while all these people are visiting her, because you know the Momiji came by, Yuki came by, you know, Uo-chan, Hana-chan, they all came by. Kyo didn't come by because he's ashamed of himself. He ran off on her. And he should be ashamed of himself. You know, well, finally, they see each other on the day she's released from the hospital, and she's scared to talk to him. She avoids him. She runs away from him, literally. Right after getting out of the hospital, and he runs after her, and finally, they're able to have a real conversation. And it got me thinking about, you know, real life, because he asked Toru, he said, I don't deserve another chance. I don't know how to love. But if you'll bear with me, I will learn. And I love you. And I want to be with you. And you know what? Their love is earned. It wasn't earned in the first series. That first series was, what, 24, 26 episodes? And they didn't finish it out like they did with this 3-season gem. And I still love it. No hating on the first season, the first series. But their love wasn't earned. At the end of the series, she expresses her love to Kyo. And it's like, do you love him though? Do you? In this one, they did a really good job of establishing that they have built a relationship where the two genuinely love each other and want a life together. And he asks her, will you give me another chance? I've had relationships where the other person has asked me to give them another chance. And sometimes I have and sometimes I haven't, you know. But when people ask for another chance and if they seem genuine, sometimes we got to be wise, use wisdom. Maybe another chance is warranted. And she gives him another chance, which opens the door to them having a beautiful life together. And they wrap up the series just the best way by showing you that every member, now that they were free from that family curse, and they're able to be who they are and what they want to be, that they were able to go out and live the lives that they wanted to live. Shigura and Akito quit being children and get together. Ayame is able to love the woman that he wants. I kind of figured that he was in love with her. They never said it, but I was like, you got one girl working with you. And everybody else around you love this girl. You know, Hattori is finally able to ask out the woman that he wants to be with. And they start a real relationship and they're planning a vacation together. Yuki has a girl at school that he's been building a relationship with slowly. And she's like Yuki the girl, basically. And she's super adorable. And they strike up a relationship. You just see one at a time. Momiji gets the nerve to go to the house where his mother and sister live and look her in the eye and say, you know what? I'm going to come by more often. I want to see you. And that kind of gives hope that at some point, now that the curse is broken and he can embrace his mom, that her memories of him can come back and they can be a real family. You know, just one after another, you see them having a good life, but it ends so perfectly with just fleeting images. We find out that Kyo wants to take over his uncle's dojo when he's older. Yeah, that's his uncle. Listen to the thing. That's his uncle. Even though he's like surrogate dad, Shisho, and the rest of it, that's his uncle. That is his father's brother. Because he and Kyo have the same grandfather. Oh. Anywho. But, yeah, little things. You gotta listen. But he wants to go train somewhere far away from where they currently live. And he wants Toru to go with him. Because he promised her mom that he would keep her by his side and protect her. And he doesn't think it's fair to ask her to leave everything. And she's like, we're not doing this long distance thing. I've waited a long time for you. And where you go, I go. We're together. And they build a beautiful love story together. And the very last scene is of a little girl that is the spitting image of Toru asking her mother when Toru will be back. And we're like, what? This isn't Toru? What happened here? And it's Toru's granddaughter asking her mom, when's grandma going to be back? And grandma lets her call her by her first name. And then we see the visage of a young man who says, grandma and grandpa are off on a walk and they'll be back later. And you can see just the shadow of the face that they give us, that is Toru and Kyo's son, because he looks exactly like Kyo. Exactly like him. And they're happy. They raised a happy family. There's a light scan over some images where you see Toru with her parents and the generations past. You see a picture of Kyo when he was little, but then you see Honda and Kyo when they get married, and then now the family they have now. And the very last scene is Toru and Kyo walking through a beautiful flowered field, hand in hand. All the feels. All of the feels. I was like, yes, they did it. Yeah. And everybody got a happy ending. You know what? I know things don't always end happy. Everything doesn't end happy. You know, a good example of that is Rin in this story. How long? Woo, I'm at 51 minutes. Wow. A good example of that is Rin in this story. Rin never forgives Akito. The pain that Akito caused her is so deep and so egregious. The girl will never get over it. And sometimes the hurt we cause, even if we change, is still going to be hurtful to those people. I might be very sorry for what I did. But if what I did caused a person so much pain and anger that they can't get over it, that's my fault. I shouldn't have done it to them, and I shouldn't expect that they're going to forgive me. I'm going to have to do what it takes to get that forgiveness. But on the other hand, Rin's going to have to do the work it takes to forgive, because that's going to eat her up in her life. It's going to eat her alive if she doesn't get rid of that pain. And there's the lesson. The ones that move forward and forgave doesn't make it right what happened to them. That's not what I'm saying. Look at me in my eyeballs. I didn't say that. But those that were able to forgive and move forward had fulfilling lives. I wonder what kind of life Rin ended up having. Rin, as a result. Whew, I had a lot to say about Fruits Basket. I'm done saying it now. I couldn't get to everything. There is so much. And I might do an episode by episode on this one because it's only 13 episodes. And it's so great and good. Please watch it. I know I spoiled it, but I told you up front I was going to spoil it. So please like, comment, and subscribe. And let's talk about it down in the comments.